Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something really fun. I personally think so. It's also been on my to-do list in the spirit of the new year. We are going to be going through every single book that I own, and then we're going to unhaul some of those books. I can't promise that we will be unhauling a lot of books. I build personal connections with my books, with my characters, with these stories, regardless of even if I enjoy the book. Can you believe it? There's just something comforting about having books, but I do need to make space for my new books that I have on my physical TBR and all the new releases that are coming out this year. So I thought it would be a good idea to go through every single book that I have. It'll be nostalgic, we will have fun, we might cry, we might laugh, maybe we'll just tear up a little bit. Probably not, but I think it'll be fun to go through this type of time capsule. Now, there are like a handful of books that I have back in my home state that I didn't bring here, but I left them there for a reason. They're literally not worth noting. But these are all the books that I have owned in the last like 4 years. Yeah, and I've done an unhaul before, but it was pretty minimal. It was like 6 books, which is what I'm expecting to get rid of now. I have been reading a lot on my Kindle lately, so I think I've been doing a pretty good job of not having too many physical books, if there is such a thing. All right, so first I thought we would go through all of the books that are on my physical TBR, just to get kind of like a gauge of how many books I should try to unhaul. I'm not running out of space on my shelves, it's just I don't want to get close to that point. And I have a good amount of books here on my physical TBR, I think. I know in comparison to other book influencers, they have like carts and carts and shelves of books they have not read. That stresses me out. I have a lot of books right now because it was just the holidays and I've started receiving some ARCs from Berkeley. So I've built up a pretty decent physical TBR and we will go through it now. So I'll insert a clip here, but this is what my TBR cart is currently looking like. It's not only full of just books, it's mainly only the second shelf that has books on it. That top shelf right here are just a couple of the books that I plan on reading right after I get done with the book that I'm currently reading. I also have some art supplies in here that I used for my 2025 reading journal. Yeah, and then just like my bookmarks and any bookish materials that I don't want to just like throw in a drawer and get ruined, I have in this cart along with my books. So with that being said, again, here we go. So we have The Help. This book I collected at a book club that I went to last year, and it has been sitting, it was like a book exchange at the book club. It's been sitting on my TBR cart for a while. I don't know why, but I do plan on, it's on the top here. I do plan on reading this next. I'm gonna do audio and physical for it, and I'm really excited to get into it. I actually haven't even seen the movie, so I plan on reading this and then watching the movie after. I then have The Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent, and I'm super excited to get into this. I've read her Daughter of No World series and then the Serpent and Wings of Night series, and I've just heard really great things about this, and this is also right up next on my TBR to read. Down now onto the second shelf for books, I have the sleeve of the book that I'm currently reading because I do not read hardcovers with the sleeves on. To me, that's just criminal. Okay. Then I have the Wedding Dashers that I just received yesterday in the mail from Berkeley, the Berkeley Romance Influencer program that I'm a part of. This is by Heather McBreen, and I'm really excited to read this one during the Valentine's Day season. I also received Spiral from Berkeley. I talked about this in my last video, but I'm also going to be reading this around the Valentine's Day season in February. I also have An Ember in the Ashes. I've seen a lot about this book and this series in general, and I'm just really excited to get into another YA fantasy. I don't know what it is about YA fantasies, but they really just hit sometimes, guys. But I'm really excited about this, and I just love the feeling of the book. Do you ever just like hold a book and you're like, dang, it just feels good? Okay. Anyways, I then have the book that I talked about also in my last video that I just got from the used bookstore. It's another by Frederick Bachman. My grandmother asked me to tell you she's sorry, so I have this one too. I then have The Fellowship of the Ring. So this is the first book in the Lord of the Rings series. My boyfriend is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and I tried watching the first movie. It was just extremely long, but I'm giving it a chance. I want to read it first and then go back to the movie because I know I love fantasy and I know that I would love it. I just really need to like be this connected to the characters, and I plan on reading this in February because I really just need to get around to it. I want to read the entire series this year. I have Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I've read Normal People and also Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I am just really excited to get into this one. Normal People is, you know, it's really hard to talk about, but I just adore Normal People. Her other book that I read, Beautiful World, Where Are You? It was good. It was okay. Nothing, you know, to remember, but Normal People, that and the show just blows my mind. And I've also heard really good things about Intermezzo, so I'm excited. I also have The Women by Kristen Hanna. I've read about 4 books by her, I believe. We'll go through them when I go to my shelves out there. But another one that I'm extremely excited about. This is an author that I found last year, and she has quickly became one of my favorite authors. So, The Women. I then have The Wedding People by Alison Esbach. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. This was one that I started seeing a lot about, but I wasn't so sure what the premise was. No one was really saying, but then once I found out what the premise was, I was really intrigued. So trigger warning is about a woman, I believe, that goes to an inn with plans to end her life, unfortunately. However, she does run into a wedding party, and that's all that I know from there. I've just seen really good reviews about it, and I really want to, you know, find out for myself kind of how this story unravels. And yeah, this is one that I got over Christmas break at Powell's Books, one of my favorite places ever. So another good one on my TBR. So for the final 2 books that I have on this middle shelf, I want to premise this with the idea that at the end of last year, I decided to take it upon myself to continue educating myself and learning and growing in any way that I can, especially now that I'm done with school, but also the fact that there are so many important things happening in our world that I need to be educated about and be more aware of. And I want to be conscious about the things that I'm consuming. Obviously, it's super fun to consume romance and fantasy and just all things reading. You know, I'm still going to be obviously probably reading more fiction novels than anything, but I want to incorporate some more nonfiction novels into my reading experience. So these next 2 books are just some that I found when I was researching what other people were reading to educate themselves on important topics. So this one is by Angela Y. Davis. This is called Women, Race, and Class. This is something that I'm just really excited to get into. I saw pretty much almost every single video that I watched on TikTok were people recommending this author or this specific book. And then it just has reviews on the back and the front, but it says, as useful an exposition of the current dilemmas of the women's movement as one could hope for. So I feel like the title's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm really looking forward to getting into this one. I also got Men Who Hate Women, From Incels to Pickup Artists, The Truth About Extreme Misogyny and How It Affects Us All by Laura Bates. This was another one that I saw a lot of people recommending on TikTok. And again, these are just, these 2 are mostly based around women. And I think that that in of itself is just a topic we can always be talking about and educating ourselves on, is the history of our society and how we view women and sex and race and gender. Yeah, so I won't dive too much into that right now since this is just about books, but those 2 are on my TBR. Lastly, on the TBR cart on the bottom, I have this book called Famous for a Living, and this is by Melissa Ferguson. This was an advanced reader copy that I received when I went to a local bookstore here in Denver called Tattered Covered Books. That was where I donated the last little batch of books that I had, and they gave me this ARC. It was wrapped up when I received it. They just offered it to me, so I took it, and it's been a really long time since I received it, and I just haven't been itching to read it, so I think this is gonna unfortunately be one of the books that I unhaul. I just don't really see myself picking it up anytime in the near future. Okay, and now standing up right above my TBR cart is this little shelf that I have here, and this is just kind of for aesthetic purposes and to also have a place to put things right next to my bed to make it look homier. I have a few books right here. Right on top of it, this is just a little memory box that I clearly need to go through. It pretty much just has almost every single bracelet I wore to the Eras tour, and I don't know if I'm ready to part ways with it yet. It's almost been 2 years, but I refuse. I refuse. Now, this doesn't mean that I dislike any of these books because they are turned around and, you know, placed in a different spot than my other books out on the big shelves. I just, again, like the aesthetic purpose of having the paper showing here. No other reason. So something about this stack though is that most of them are my thrillers that I still own. I'm just not like a big thriller reader. Whenever I do read thrillers, I really do enjoy them. I just don't typically reach for them when I go to buy books, which maybe I should get better at because I do tend to like them when I do read them. But this first one on the top is Hidden Pictures. This is one that I saw on Book Talk a lot and Bookstagram. I do remember kind of enjoying this and kind of feeling freaked out, but nothing to, you know, really remember. It's just freaky because it involves a child. And I feel like every horror movie that involves a child is just, it's freaky, okay? Next one that I have up here is Behind Closed Doors. This one is another thriller where the husband initially tricked this woman into marrying him. He was super kind and sweet in the beginning, and then he just like traps her in a room and it's just like abusive and really creepy. Again, this was another one. These are all like 3 stars to me, which I know I said that I do really enjoy thrillers. 3 stars is still a really good rating. I just think that's why I don't pick up thrillers as much, is because they're not like extremely memorable or like fantastic all the time, you know, for like a 5-star rating. But yeah, this one was also just like, oh my god, oh my god. Okay, and then next up I have The Push. This one just like pissed me off. I don't know why. I actually think I'm going to unhaul this book. This one pissed me off. If I remember anything from this book, it was that everyone gaslit everyone, and it just made me really mad. Yeah, I think I'm gonna unhaul this one. Obviously, it was pretty memorable because I remember everything that happened, because when I was reading it, I was just getting aggravated for everyone. Yeah, I'm gonna unhaul this one, unfortunately. It's been with me for about 3 years now, but it's time to say goodbye. Okay, and then I have the OG, The Housemaid. I have not read any of the other Housemaid books. I refuse to. There's like 10 now. I don't know, sorry Frida, but I thought The Housemaid, this was just a perfect singular novel. I did not feel the need to continue the story, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was still interesting, and it was thrillery, so I'm gonna keep it. This is one of the first thrillers that I ever read. I read it like 3 years ago. The Silent Patient. You guys know this was a huge one on Book Talk and Bookstagram, Booktube, all the things. I've seen a lot of people say that they really dislike it or that they really liked it. Again, I was just in between. I thought it was enjoyable. I was entertained, and I do remember being like, whoa, to the plot twist, you know? Yeah. And then randomly enough, I have The Honeymooners, or sorry, that's the whole point of this plot. The Unhoneymooners. A lot of people say that they dislike this. I feel like I see a lot of negative discourse around this book. I enjoyed it. I did read it like 3 years ago, but I remember thinking, oh, that's kind of cute. Like, I didn't completely dislike it. I think the only reason it's on this shelf is because I don't really like the cover's fun, but I don't know, it just doesn't look that great, like, on the shelf, you know? The vibe. I'm gonna keep it though. And then lastly, The Virgin Suicides. I enjoyed this read a lot, and I still have to watch the movie, and I'm keeping it. That's all I have to say about that. I got this book for like $6 at a used bookstore, so it's a steal. Okay, now we've made it to my big bookshelf. I'll put a video up on the screen, but this is something that I've been working on a little bit. I mean, not a lot. I've just been trying to make it look as cute as possible. This is the big display that is in my living room, so it's something that I want to look good and cozy. I initially had the IKEA white bookshelf case. It was not the Billy one, it was a different one. It did its job. It now resides in a neighbor's apartment who picked it up from our community chat when I sold it. But when I went to go look for a bigger bookcase, since I realized I was kind of running out of room, I realized that I just really like this dark wood. I think it looks a lot more homier and cozier, and it just fits the vibe more of my apartment. I have a lot of dark woods happening in here, so it all just matches. But let's get started. Okay, so up on the top shelf, can you see me? Yeah. Up on the top shelf, I have Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. These are both the sprayed edges. Iron Flame is just showing because the sprayed edge is just the all black, which I'm fine without showing. So it just shows the spine up here. I will be keeping these because Onyx Storm comes out next week. I think once this video goes up, it comes out like tomorrow. So very excited for that. And then I have my two Olivie Blake books. So I have the Masters of Death and then one for my enemy. Masters of Death was super confusing. I still don't think I understand it, but I really like the cover, so I'm gonna keep it. And then one for my enemy was like one of my favorite books of 2023. Super enjoyed that one. I initially read it at the library and then I liked it so much that I bought it. So, yeah. Then I have my disco ball that I got from TJ Maxx. Then after the disco ball, we go into some more fantasies that I've really enjoyed. So we have the Shepherd King duology, as well as the Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves duology. Both of these like 5-star top tier duologies. I then have Babel in between, and then Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which is another top tier 5-star duology. And then I have the Red Rising original trilogy. Really enjoyed this one. Kind of a little too intimidated to continue with the series. I would love to, but maybe later this year I'll try to dive into that. And then up top, I of course have the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because it's just incredible, okay? And then over here on the right hand side, I have this little Lego. My boyfriend is like the Lego king, and when he went to go buy a Lego, I think it was probably like a few months ago, he got a free little set because he used his points, and that was the set that he got. So he gave it to me, I built it, and now it belongs. It lives on the shelf. Cute. If you're at a different angle, it's because I had to move you around a little bit. It's just really, it's a whole thing. Okay, so then this shelf is a lot of my fave romances. And then I have my Bunny Peaches here. She is my first and only Jellycat. Isn't she just adorable? I just love Jellycats. But the issue is like I can't start buying them because I literally won't stop. When I was younger, I had an stuffed animal collection, and it was gigantic. And it was really hard to part ways with them, even now. So like I already, in this apartment, tangent, have so many stuffed animals between me and my boyfriend. It's honestly ridiculous for mid 20-year-olds to have this many stuffed animals, but here we are. Okay, so this left-hand side, you will have to pry all of these books out of my cold, dead hands for me to unhaul them. It's my Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez stack. If I were, if like I had to, I would sacrifice maybe the friend zone and People We Meet on Vacation. But you didn't hear that from me. Happy Place, of course, is one of my favorite books of all time. So that one, literally never unhauling. So I have all of their books right here. They both come out with new releases this year as well, so I'm super excited about that. I have some Emily Henry merch bookmark type things right here. And then we go into Before We Were Strangers, Pride and Prejudice, Out on a Limb, Love in Other Words, The Love of My Afterlife, and then Summer Romance. To preface this a little bit late into the game, I will not be unhauling any of the books that are on this big shelf. These are some of my favorite books, so they will be staying. We're just going through them for funsies now. I did not realize how awkward this would be to film from certain angles. So this is what we're doing now. This is my Sarah J. Maas shelf, so not a lot to say here. I won't be unhauling these. I have these OG Throne of Glass books in the box still, the Akatar series, and then the Crescent City series. And then right below that shelf, I have a kind of mixture of different types of books. They're mostly literary fictions that were my favorites, and then some like romance series that I have. So we have A Little Life here on the end, and then we go into my Kristen Hanna novels. So we have The Nightingale, Firefly Lane, and then The Great Alone. So that's 3 books that I read by her. The Women will be my 4th. We then have my Sally Rooney books, so Beautiful World, Where Are You, and Normal People. And then we have my Frederick Bachman Beartown series right here. We have Little Women, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And then we have the Lovelight Farms series right here, which are also some of my favorites. They're so sweet. I did not think that I would enjoy like holiday romances so much. The first book is genuinely like the most holiday-y, but regardless, they're like super quick and easy reads, and I actually love all of them. So we then have the Mile High, the Windy City series right here, and after reading Mile High, I was like, what's everyone talking about? Like, I really didn't enjoy that. But then everyone was like, oh, you just have to keep reading. Like, the first book is the worst. Like, the first book isn't the best. And so I listened, and I love it. And then the 5th one in the series comes out later this year as well. So super excited. I'll have to make room here for that. And then of course we have the beloved Binding 13 Boys of Tommen series here on the end. And I'll eventually have to make room for the next book in the series that comes out for that one too. This is just getting ridiculous, but here we are. So over here we have A Day of Fallen Night and The Priory of the Orange Tree that I read at the end of 2023. They are super intimidating because they are gigantic, but I am obsessed with them. I actually read them a lot faster than I thought I was going to because I just enjoyed this series so much. I did read The Priory of the Orange Tree first, and then I read A Day of Fallen Night, but technically A Day of Fallen Night is a prequel. So I guess you could read it in either order, but I really enjoyed reading The Priory of the Orange Tree first, especially that's how the series was published, was Priory first and then A Day of Fallen Night, so I enjoyed it that way. And then I have another favorite series here. So we have the Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, that series, as well as the Caraval series. And then I have her newer novella that came out with these characters called Spectacular. And it's just gorgeous. Like, the artwork in this book, absolutely insane. I just thought it was so cute. Okay, and then another fave duology we have here is Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. Love. And then I went ahead and read a few more of Rebecca Ross's work because I love Divine Rivals so much. So I read Sisters of Sword and Song, and then A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless, and I really, really enjoyed A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless. I thought that was also a really great duology that she had written. And then, like I was talking about earlier, I have The Serpent and Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, that duology with the novella. And then I also have the Daughter of No Worlds series. And let me just tell you, I think the Daughter of No Worlds series is completely underrated. I am obsessed with it. I think about it all the time. And I also think about rereading it all the time. I think I'm going to. The only issue with rereading a lot of these larger series is that I read most of them when I was unemployed. So like, I had a lot of time on my hands, you know what I mean? I don't have that much time anymore. And then I'll just pick up the last 3 books that I have on this bottom shelf. So I have Five Broken Blades, and it is facing the painted edges side. And then right next to it, once I finish Four Ruined Realms, the sprayed edges will go on the right side of this one as well on the bottom shelf. I then have A Thousand Splendid Suns, and then Stephen King's 11/22/63. So this bottom shelf actually is all 5 stars so far. So love that. Another thing about sprayed edges is I feel like it's been a topic of conversation lately because so many books are coming out with special editions and sprayed edges. And I know my book club talked about it because they were texting about it in the chat. I unfortunately could not make it to book club this last weekend. But yeah, like, can we just talk about it a little bit more? Like, they're obviously cash grabs most of the time, right? Like, I do enjoy them, and I think the sprayed edges of Five Broken Blades looks really good. But when paperbacks are sprayed edges, they don't look good. Like, I guess it could be fun, but I just don't think they look that great. And when everything is a special edition, then it's not special. And also, maybe unpopular opinion, I don't like the 10-year anniversary edition of the ACOTAR series. That's all I'll say on that for now, but I'm not spending my money on that. I'm so sorry. As if the last angle wasn't already so difficult. I'll probably stay on the ground for the rest of the video. Okay, so this is my smaller shelf on the in the hallway by the guest room. I have Remarkably Bright Creatures, which I read last year and I really enjoyed it. It was like a really warm hug. It was super comforting and I just thought the story was really beautiful. And there's like a talking octopus kind of in it. He's just like a character, okay? He doesn't really like talk, but it's a good one. I then have Yellowface, which was a 5-star read for me in last February. I thought it was a super interesting story, and I will just now read anything that R.F. Kuang comes out with. I then have Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and then I have 28 Summers by Ellen Hilderbrand and Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I also have 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hilderbrand. Now, the thing about these books is that they were around the 4-star area, so I will be keeping them. I then have Better Than the Movies and Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. And then I have the Prison Healer trilogy. This series was such a good YA fantasy series. I pretty much devoured the first book. The second book was a little bit slower for me, but the tropes that it included, which I will not be revealing because I think that's a spoiler when you like mention tropes. But I thought they were really good. They were done really well and I enjoyed the series. I then have The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. And then I have The Third Gilmore Girl, which is a memoir by Kelly Bishop. And oh my gosh, I enjoyed it so much. If you watch Gilmore Girls, or even if you don't, like I highly recommend the memoir. I thought it was really good. I then have Before the Coffee Gets Cold and Tales from the Cafe. I really enjoyed these first 2 books, but I really have been meaning to finish the series. I was in Barnes & Noble like a few weeks ago, just browsing, and I believe they came out with another book in this series, which has to be like the 5th or 6th one. So like I really ought to catch up. I then have Small Things Like These. That was a super short read that I thought was just a really great, beautiful story as well. I then have The Wishing Game, which I will be unhauling because I don't think I liked it. Like I think I rated it a 3.5, but looking back on it, it was weird. I'm so sorry if you liked it, but I will be unhauling this book. So sorry. I then have Gone Girl, Sharp Objects and Dark Places, all by Gillian Flynn. It's Gillian Flynn, right? Yeah. I had watched Gone Girl years ago and I've been meaning to rewatch it now that I've read the book. But I do know that there are TV shows based on the other 2 novels as well, and I feel like I need to watch those. So if you have and you recommend, comment below. I then have The Infinity Between Us, which I will be keeping. And then I have The Way I Am Now and The Way That I Used to Be. This series has a lot of trigger warnings, but I think it's beautifully written and I really did enjoy the journey that our main character Eden goes on. So if you want to review the trigger warnings and have not yet read this book, I do recommend. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it now, but I did really adore this one. But the follow-up sequel was really well done as well. They're not always done like sequels to really big just original singular releases, you know, are not always the best, i.e. It Ends With Us and whatever, what was the second one? It Ends With Us and I don't remember. See? I then have the Natural series, and I don't know what Jennifer Lynn Barnes put into this series, but I am obsessed with it. I read all of these books like almost within a whole day. Just one single day, each book. If I truly didn't have a life and wasn't starting my job at the time, I would have finished them each in a day. They were so addicting, so easy to read. There were actual plot twists that I was not expecting. It was mystery, it was fun, it was cute. Like, she was everything. We then have Powerless, Powerful, and Reckless. Unfortunately, if Reckless was not a part of a series and I wasn't so like particular about how my shelves looked, I would be unhauling Reckless, which I know that sounds so silly to like not, but it's just for like the aesthetic purposes. I really didn't like it that much. And Powerless, now that I know about like the whole Red Queen situation, I believe that's what the other book is called. It's like the Red Queen or something. Interesting. Very interesting. I'll keep that in mind. I do think it's hard to like, whatever, we won't get too much into it, but essentially Reckless was just not my favorite. I'll still be finishing the series because I'm really interested to see where she goes with how Reckless ended, but that's my opinion. For When the Moon Hatched, I had really high expectations for this one. Everyone was obsessed with this and talking about it, and I love the cover, but it wasn't that great. I think I rated it a 3.75, and I think I only rated it that extra like 7.5 because there were other points of views that I really enjoyed, but as for the main character, I really didn't enjoy it. And the plot was just eh. Like, I guessed almost everything that was going to happen. None of it was new. And maybe it was just the overhypeness of it. Maybe if it wasn't so overhyped, I would have enjoyed it more, unfortunately. But I'll keep it because I still am, again, intrigued to see where we go with the story in the second book. Then I have Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. I just thought that the cover was so exciting. I have never read Kingdom of the Wicked, and I know that that's where these characters come from, but this cover is gorgeous. I actually really enjoyed this story and this book. And I know she just came out with another one in this series that also has another gorgeous cover. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the best reviews on it, so I think I'm gonna wait a minute to read it. But it was just like fun and entertaining. You know, nothing like too serious, just fun and entertaining, and I enjoyed myself. Oh boy, we have A Fate Inked in Blood. I read this for book club. I also got the teal sprayed edges, which I think are like a decent detail. You know, I don't think that's too horrible, especially because it's a hardcover. I think I rated this a 3.5, and every time I think about it now, I think I just like it less and less and less. After we discussed it more at book club, we all realized, like, wait, maybe it wasn't that great. For the most part, I don't want to speak for everyone that was at book club, but from the people that I had discussed this with, it just wasn't that great. And I would say that I'm intrigued to try the second book, but also I don't really want to waste my time if I just really didn't like this book that much. And I think I'm going to have to unhaul this one, unfortunately. Maybe somebody else will really enjoy it. Okay, now for the bottom shelf and the final books that I have here. I don't know if I can like say this on YouTube, but this book was another one of the nonfiction books that I saw recommended a lot on TikTok when I looked up educational content. And I read it really quickly. It was a super short book. It just had a lot of statistics, a lot of facts, and debunked myths regarding a really important topic that is very timely, which is abortion. And I think it just brought up a lot of really great points. So, you know, it was super short. I think I could have gone for something with a little more depth to it, but I still think it's important and insightful, and it did open my eyes to some things that I didn't think about originally. So this one, I had to read this for work, but it's called Crucial Influences. So if you're looking to be more influential in any part of your life, probably business particular related. And then the rest of these are just a lot of like romances, miscellaneous, or books that I read a few years ago that I just have here. So I have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I also really enjoyed this book, and I enjoy having it on my shelf. I also have The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. This book threw me off. I was not expecting what happened at the end to happen, and it tore me to pieces. Okay. And then have You Again, which just has this gorgeous cover. It wasn't my absolute favorite romance. I did respect the fact that it was just a whole different take on romance than I have previously read, and I also just really enjoy the cover. I think as I continued to read it though, because in the beginning I really just didn't like any of our main characters, but as I continued to read and understand who they were and why they acted the way they did, then I enjoyed it more. I think it's also just enjoying a lot of the times and refreshing to not read about characters that are supposed to be perfect. I know that when we go into fiction, you know, you kind of just like want what you want out of a story and out of a fiction novel and out of entertainment. However, it's just nice to read about characters that are imperfect. I then have, like I said, Ready or Not, which was the pregnancy trope book, which is not a spoiler at all, that hence the Ready or Not, and I enjoyed that one for the most part, and I also really like the cover, so I will be keeping. Then have Just Last Night by Mari McFarland, I think that's how you pronounce it, and I enjoyed that one for the most part. I don't think it's my type of literary fiction, but it was another one of those instances where we had a lot of characters that were just absolutely imperfect. There was not a character in this novel that was perfect, and it was a tough read at times. There was a lot of like grief that was dealt with, as well as just like also grieving people that are still alive because you're not as close to them anymore and they maybe did something to you, or just something in general that you don't agree with. And yeah, it was a little bit tough at times, and I did enjoy it for that aspect, but I don't know if I'll continue to read books by this author, but I will be keeping this book on my shelf. I then have The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I wanted to try out at least one of her books that was not Iron Flame or Fourth Wing, because those are the only books that I had read by her, and I wanted to see what her writing style was like when she just wrote her romances. And I wouldn't say it was my type of romance. A lot of her romances have to do with military families because she is a military family, or a part of one, obviously. I wouldn't say I really enjoyed this one, especially the ending was just kind of like, huh? You know, like if you've read this book, you know what I mean when I say that. However, is it a crime for me to want to keep it because I just like how it looks on my shelf? It sounds so silly, but when a book looks like a book.
Thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie.
It's so like booky. Does that make sense to anybody else? Like every time I held this book, I was like, oh, this is a book. And that's the only reason I have kept this and not unhauled it. Because I honestly just like try to forget about this book. I should be unhauling it, but I don't mind how it looks on my shelf. And also like holding it and just like the look of it. I'm like, this is a solid book, right? Oh boy. Next up, I have The Roughest Draft, which I enjoyed. Thank you very much. And then I have, we all know her, we all love her, I think, the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. I got this series and read it almost 3 years ago now, after I had watched the first season on Amazon Prime. And something I will say is that, you know, these are, of course, books that are meant for young teenage girls. And they so are. I still read every single page because I was like, I need to know what happens. And I do think the covers are cute. However, I think other people can enjoy these for free at the library. And I'm never going to go back and reread them. So I think I'm going to be unhauling these three, unfortunately. They're just not like the best, you know? Which is crazy though, because if we're going to talk about the TV show, that is some of the best television I have ever watched. I love the first season of The Summer I Turned Pretty. The second season, it was still really good. It was just you know, obviously very sad if you know what the story is. and just different. But the first season vibes, oh my gosh, I've watched that season so many times. It's such like a comfort watch for me. It's like I just want to be there so bad. I want to be at Cousins, okay? But we will be saying goodbye to the books. I'm so sorry. We then have the Summer of Broken Rules. This is what I wish The Summer I Turned Pretty was more like in written form. Super, super, super enjoyed this one. What a cute YA romance, I thought. We then have the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Of course, going to be keeping her. This was such an iconic book talk moment, and it did not let me down, I will say. I then have another memoir called You're Not Special by Megan Ranks. She's an influencer, YouTuber, if you guys did not know, and I really enjoy a lot of her content. She's really great, and she is a really great advocate for a lot of communities, and she posts a lot of really great resources for things and people. So if you want to go follow her, check her out. She's amazing. Okay, camera died, but we are back for the final few books. So I do have the 3 Carly Fortune novels that have been released. Every Summer After, Meet Me at the Lake, and This Summer Will Be Different. I feel like if you've seen a lot of discourse about these books, I feel very similar to how other people feel. I really enjoyed the first like 75% of this book, and then the ending extremely killed it for me. It really just did not enjoy it. I do, however, love these covers, so I will be keeping it for that reason. Same with Meet Me at the Lake. the premise of this story really just did not capture me, but the cover is so gorgeous, and it goes with the blue cover. This is what the marketing team is trying to do. I understand, but I am falling for it. Didn't enjoy this one a lot, but the cover means I will be keeping it. I did enjoy The Summer Will Be Different a little bit more. However, it is slightly forgettable. There's not a lot I remember about this book in particular, but again, the cover is gorgeous. I believe she is coming out with a 4th book this year, and the cover also looks really good. But I'm going to hold off. I'm going to hold off and try to read it for free somehow on like Libby or something before I purchase it, because I can't keep doing this, right? Say it with me. We can't keep doing this. Okay, perfect. I then have The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I thought this was just a cute, fun YA romance. And then we have got Daisy Jones and the Sixth, so another OG book out there from BookTube, Book Talk, Bookstagram. This is also a really solid read for me a few years ago. And I still haven't watched the TV show. I don't know why, sometimes I'm just not that interested. It's hard for me. This is how I felt with like the Harry Potter series a lot of the times. Like when I just know when something's gonna happen, it takes me a minute to really sit down and consume another form of content with the same story. Because I'm just like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. Which I'm sure they made changes to this, and I'm sure if I really did sit down and start watching it, I would enjoy it. But something that TikTok has also ruined for me these last few years is that my attention span is nada, and I can't watch like drama TV shows. Like I'm trying to get into Succession, and it's really, really good, and I like it, but it's hard for me to sit there for like 45 minutes and watch it because I'm used to TikTok and scrolling with that instant gratification. So I'm trying to get back into it. Maybe with TikTok banned now, I'll be able to watch TV again, okay? We then have Accidentally Amy, which I received from Berkeley Romance, and I talked about it in my last video. I love the cover. I will be keeping her. It's the first ARC I ever received from a publishing company, so that's exciting. And then lastly on this shelf, I have another trilogy romance down here with just adorable covers. And let me tell you something, I would have never guessed that I would actually enjoy this series so much, because I'm just not super into like the cowboy thing, you know, but maybe I am. I feel like these books just focus a lot more on the romance though. Like of course they're cowboys and they live on a farm, but it's just romance, and they're short and sweet and super easy to read, and I do really enjoy the covers. This was an airplane read. I got it at the airport last May and devoured it. And it was like the most perfect airplane read. So I'm glad I found it. So those are all of the books that I own that are on my bookshelves. So thank you for coming along. I'll briefly go through the books that I will be unhauling now. So I will be unhauling The Push, Famous for a Living, The Wishing Game, The Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy, A Fate Inked in Blood, and Where the Crawdads Sing. I do plan on donating these to a local library near me so that other people can read these and hopefully enjoy them more than I did for free. But if you guys have any other recommendations of where I could be donating my books, I've donated some to used bookstores in the past as well. I know there's some free little libraries out here as well, but I think this time I will go to the library so that other people can read them for free. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this is probably another long one, so thank you if you have watched up until this point. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys again next time. Okay, bye guys.